Hello and welcome to Redefining Real Estate. I am Brian Dobbs, and we have a great show uh, designed just for you. And we have Gracie Perez with Town Square Mortgage. She is a branch manager. Fantastic. I've known her from a past affiliation with the NAREP group, and which is the National Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. Fantastic organization. Was served on the board with them with Gracie and had a lot of fun. So can't wait to get that started. And I want to welcome my good friend, Lyndon Wilson. Lyndon,
Hello,
how are you
Brian.
doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing great. Well, it is the beginning of a brand new year. I know we had our show last week, but it has been an interesting 12 days going to this new year. So we have a lot to talk about, a lot to go over. Super excited about it. And I hope you guys are excited about the new year as well. There are a lot of good things. There are a lot of things that are distracting, a lot of noises out there that we have to silence and just go forward to be focused, to be intentional, strategic. But when you are strategic and you're intentional and you're attracting the right people around you, I want to tell you, you can make it through. You can make it through the difficulties, the uncertainties, the chaos at times. You can make it through with a great group of people, being intentional, being strategic, and having the wherewithal to know when to just keep your eyes focused on the prize. You will get there. So without further ado, I want to get Gracie online here with us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me. You guys are awesome, and I'm really excited to share with you guys who I am and what I do, and share a little bit more about this industry.
Fantastic. Well, Gracie, we go back to NAREP a couple of years ago, right? And we were working with that organization. And one of the things that I loved about the NAREP organization was the educational component of it, was to go out and to educate the consumers in the real estate world. And that's really what attracted me to that. And what I found in that, I also found a group of people that were like-minded, had similar core values, they had similar passions, and they have actually become fantastic friends. So and love it. Even though I'm not serving in that organization currently, I can just tell you the friendships that I made through it were absolutely phenomenal. So Gracie, give us a little bit of history. What brought you into real estate and how long have you been in there?
Yes, so I want to take a few seconds to affirm, yes, we've met, within the real estate family of NAREP. And just like you said, some of my best friends I met there because it's like a magnet, right? You surround yourself with people who are going to help you grow. And so basically, I got into real estate. I always call it like the dark side of real estate, and the loan. We make the loans work, but I have always been in the industry. I bought my house when I was 22, and from there I started working at the bank that gave me my loan when I was 22. And I was with a smaller bank. Wasn't with a mortgage company. It was a local bank in town. I worked there for about 9 years. I was doing conventional loans, only 20% down. From there, I wanted to switch, and I was turning families away. Those families who were not approved for an FHA loan, a USDA loan, a VA loan, we were only doing conventional financing. So I felt I was, not living a life with purpose. And so then I decided to just move to and work with a mortgage company where I could help every single person that was in front of me.
Fantastic. So how common is it for a 22-year-old to go buy a home? And well, so when you did it, and then currently, are we seeing a lot of 20-year-olds buy homes right now?
So it wasn't common. So I'm not going to tell you my age, but
I'm not going to ask you your age. That's why I tried to phrase that correctly.
Actually, my daughter last night, she was like, "You're cheating the system, Mom." And I was like, "Why is that?" She's like, "Because you don't look your age." And I was like, "Oh, I see."
That's not cheating the system. That is actually beating the system.
Yeah. So back then it wasn't common. Like I remember when I went and applied, the loan originator was like staring at me like, "Really? You're buying a home?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm buying, and I'm buying my own house. I don't want to rent, and here are my financials." Right. So back then it wasn't the most popular thing. They didn't, they were asking, as a matter of fact, I remember they were asking like for extra things just because of, we don't really see this often. Right. And so then I was like, oh my gosh, like there's gotta be 1,000 of other peoples that can qualify for a loan. And they just think it's like this impossible thing, even though they have good credit, they have the income, they have the assets. We have to educate everybody out there. Stop paying rent, even if you're, 21, 22, 23, go and buy your home. And after that, I started investing. I remember I was buying homes, flipping them, and then, but that's another story. But going back to your question.
We're going to get to that, though. We're going to get to that because that's really cool. Okay, go back to that story. 22 years ago buying a home.
Yeah, going back to your question, we do see it, not as often as I would like to see on my approvals. We see more of, I'm helping my mom and dad get into a home because they have been renting for 20, 30 years, right? That's what I see the most right now. Mm-hmm. Then I take my time to educate the son or daughter who are helping their parents. Hey, you can buy a home too, and here's how you can do it. That's what I see the most. Okay.
So you at 22 years old, you were able to, what were some of the when you bought your home, what was some of the mindset that you had on that deal? Because one, you didn't want to rent, you wanted to own. So that's great. How hard was home ownership? Owning your first home?
So this was right before the 2008 crash. And I have to tell you, like, I had lived with my sister, rent free. Then I was going to school, college, a full-time job. Then I was renting. And I remember how tedious was to find an apartment, pay rent. I had to park like miles away from my apartment. I was a single person. Then I was working night shift, and then I had to walk by myself into my apartment. I mean, it was just, and I know my siblings, my sisters were worried about me, and I was like, I have to stop this whole thing. So that me renting, it only lasted about 6 months.
Okay.
When I decided, okay, I have my financials in order. I have everything that I need. Why don't I just go and buy a home? And that's how it got started.
Excellent. Was it hard or difficult to own your property versus rent?
It was. And so, no, it wasn't hard because, number one, I did my research before I went to the loan originator. I knew everything about the loan originator that I could. And then back then, social media wasn't as popular, right? But I did make my calls to the bank, and I would call in and ask questions. I then also did my due diligence and got myself in a position where I knew my credit was going to be where I needed. I saved for my 20% down because I did buy my house with 20% down with conventional financing, which again, back then that it seemed like that was the only choice available,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. So it was hard, but not in a sense of it was impossible because I got it done.
Right. That was just the financial aspect. But as far as maintenance, upkeep, it's not a lot different than renting. But we think it is. We
Right.
the difference between, I mean, you still have to clean your bathrooms and your kitchen and
Yeah.
your living room. So the cleaning, everybody should. Okay,
Right.
let's just go with, we shouldn't speculate or assume, right?
Right.
But just good home ownership. And then you would, if there was a problem, you would call the landlord or the maintenance and get them to come and fix it. So owning a home, you are the landlord, so you would just call people that would come and fix it, right? Or
Right.
you might have a yard to mow if you have a little bit of a yard, or if you didn't buy a townhome, and you have a little bit of exterior upkeep as well as interior, but it's pretty much the same thing, and that's what I
Is it?
keep.
But is it though? I
Well,
mean, when
Lyndon,
I call a landlord, the cost is coming out of their pocketbook, not mine. So if I'm living week to week, that doesn't impact me. But as a homeowner, it would it not? I mean, if you are not understanding of the possibilities of a water heater going out and the expense that you may have, and Brian, you've got some great ones on your team, having a great home warranty. I think that all of these, I mean, in my experience of being around this industry, it is a big shock for first-time home buyers because it's almost like as a renter, just call mom and dad, they'll fix it. Now I've got to put my big boy pants on when I own a house because I can call somebody to fix it, but I have to pay for it. Mom and dad don't do that anymore. So I disagree with that, Brian. I think that there is a difference, and I think that what I love about what you do in redefining real estate is you prepare people for that no one else is doing.
Well, let's go with the difficulty here. I think the difficulty on upkeep on an apartment or upkeep on a house is very similar. It's still upkeep, right?
But it depends on who has the responsibility. That's
Well,
the difference in owning and renting.
Well, but let's just go with not who has the responsibility, but as responsible people. And Gracie, how cool is it? 22 years old. We have kids that age, Gracie. So I've actually talked to my son, and I'm going to get back to you, Lyndon, here in just a second. I've talked to my son. He's now a sophomore in college, and he said, "Dad, I want an apartment to rent." I'm like, "Well, let's go find you a home." "Well, Dad, I don't want a home." I'm like, "You need a home because we can get you a home. Money's cheap. You maintain it. I'll teach you how to do that. I'll teach you how to do the home maintenance, the upkeep of your home, and then you'll build equity. You build responsibility. You build that strength to do it." So, yes, Lyndon, to your point, there is a difference in there, but it's not that hard. It's really not, and that's where I will push back a little bit because we have made it sound, oh my gosh, this is impossible. Well, if it was impossible, Gracie wouldn't have done it at 22 years old, going to college, working a night shift, and owning a home. That's freaking awesome.
It is awesome. And it's not impossible. And it's not something but it's something that we need to know and understand and be prepared for. And I've been in this business for 18 years and a lot of people are not prepared for that. They go into the home buying process of how much is my payment going to be? How much are my taxes, my insurance? Just things that they can budget. And now they've got the keys and they're inside and the AC goes out in 110-degree weather in Texas, and they have no idea what to do next because they weren't prepared. And I think that's where, Brian, you developing these coalitions of people like you and like Gracie that really take an interest and have that experience like Gracie has at 22 years old. She has the experience to relate to these first-time home buyers now and go, here's something you need to be prepared for. Here's something it's not the end of the world. This is part of being a grown-up now. But here's the other thing. All of these responsibilities that we take on in home ownership, there is a return on that investment over time.
Correct.
Right. And here's what I always tell my first time home buyers. The last thing you want to do is to buy a house and be house poor.
Right.
Right? You don't want to buy a house and not have enough money to go buy a water heater, to go buy a couch. What if you need, what if the stove stops working? So I always educate them. Sometimes I have to tell them, you're not ready to buy a home yet. I need to put you on a diet. I tell them, I was like, you need to be on a diet. You know, and so they laugh, but it sticks with them, right? I had one buyer this past Christmas. I feel really bad for him, but I had been working with him for a year, and I said, you need to be on a diet, and you need to tell me every time you need to, buy gifts, or if you're gonna go to the store, I need you to tell me how much you're gonna spend, so that we can get you a home before Christmas, right? And I kept on telling him, you cannot buy a home and be house poor. Like, that's the worst thing that you can do, right? I don't need you to go to closing, bring every penny you have in your checking account, and then, yes, you got the key, you have the house, but you don't have any reserves for anything, right? We don't want our buyers to buy a home like that. And so a lot of the times they get so excited, right? They're like, well, just give me the pre-approval letter. I'll figure it out. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't be doing my job, if I let you buy a house in your current financial situation. One of my main hashtags I use is, I want to be your lender for life. And I do it for that very same reason. I don't want to just your one-time business. I want to be your lender for life. And I want to be that person that, if you have a problem, you think of me and say, well, Gracie told me I should have not done this. So my client was literally texting me days before Christmas. Okay, can I buy my kids this gift? Right? Can I take $200 out of my savings to buy my wife the purse she wanted? Right? And so I would be like, hold on. Let me get to your file. Let me figure out the numbers. Okay, you can only spend up to $150 on that. You can only spend up to $50 on that. And then explain to your kids, you're getting the best gift of all, right before Christmas, which is your house. So sometimes we do have to put our buyers, on a diet, and we do educate them when is the right time to buy and when it's not the right time for them, because of those main reasons that you just mentioned.
I got a quick question, Brian, if you don't mind, for Gracie. Because I love what you said about being house poor, because we think about being house poor, but how important is it to not be house poor for this reason specifically? If everything that I have goes to cover my house payment and my insurance and all the things that we know come along with that, my car payment and my regular expenses, and I don't have money for upkeep and maintenance and improvements, over 5 years and that home deteriorates, I lose my equity. Yeah. And that's one thing when I was in mortgage that I was always concerned about, is that if you don't have money to have this house in better shape than it was when you got in it, you're going to lose your equity. Absolutely. So therefore, home ownership is not better than renting at that point. Home ownership is always better than renting if you are prepared to own the home.
Yes.
Go ahead, Gracie.
You have to be responsible. It goes beyond owning a home. Now what, right? Not keeping up with your current home. It's the worst damage you can do to your savings account.
Absolutely.
So.
Correct. I use the and I wrote down this term, financial stewardship. And love the fact that you're teaching that, Gracie, because we teach that, and that's what I believe in, is financial stewardship, because we teach people how to go from living to owning. Anybody can live in a home. Anybody. Our pets live in our home, right? If you have indoor pets, they live in a home. Do they contribute to the bathroom that needs to be caulked? No. Do they contribute to the air conditioning, the HVAC that needs to be serviced? No, they don't. They don't help the yard to be mowed. They help it grow. They don't help it mow. And there's a pet lives in a home. We love our pets, but home ownership is taking on that responsibility financially, taking on that responsibility on who's my team. Because if I don't want to mow the yard, do I have somebody that does landscaping? If I don't want to clean the pool, do I have somebody that does pool cleaning? Do I have someone that I can call for the HVAC, the plumbing, sprinkler system, whatever it may be? Am I owning that correctly? And we don't teach a lot about home ownership. Gracie, I don't see a lot of classes on home ownership. I see a lot of classes on how to get into a house, and they don't necessarily care if you're house poor or not. Their objective, that class objective, was to get you into a home.
Right.
And hence the fact that we put redefining real estate. I think being able to leverage your home, not that you bought your dream home, because I don't believe in that either. We can go into that later. I don't believe you buy your dream home, because once you live in your home, you're going to figure out, one, that dream became a reality, and you may or may not like the kitchen setup.
Yeah, I call it a vicious circle. When I meet with my clients and they're a little bit nervous, I'm like, oh, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna get addicted to this thing because it's a vicious circle. I tell them, I'm like, look at me in the eyes, because in a year or so, you're going to come back and you're going to say, I'm ready for my next dream home. And then it's just going to be a circle, so. Yep.
So help me walk down. Lyndon, do you have any more questions on this?
Not right now.
Okay. I love this. One, the fact I did not know this about you, Gracie. you purchased the house at 22. Yeah. First of all, I'm going to give you the name and number of all our children. We do have a tribe, and I want you to talk to them, because apparently mom and dad, they are not listening to it. They're like, oh no, we don't need to own our house until we get older. I'm like, oh my gosh. If I would have had the knowledge that I do today, I would have been with you, Gracie, as a 20-year-old homeowner.
Yeah.
And my dad's in real estate. He was in real estate when I was 20 and didn't teach me that stuff. Love my dad. No harm, no foul, no finger pointing here. But I can just tell you that they haven't taught us that in the past. And now we're going out teaching people how to own, how to sell, how to buy in that order, because it's not just about getting into a home. It's actually owning, understanding the ownership responsibility. And then once you do that, then you can sell responsibly, and then you buy better, and you keep that vicious circle that you talk about, or vicious cycle. You keep that going, and you continue to either grow your equity, your portfolio, get into a larger home if you need it, whatever the case is. So your first home, and then you went into investing. But what did you do with your first home? How long did you keep it?
So I kept my first home for about 8 years or so. I refinanced. I bought it, then refinanced twice. And I tell you why I refinanced, because I was in college, right? And so my main thing was I didn't want to be done with college, and I didn't want to owe all this thousands of dollars on student loans, right? Because I knew it was going to affect my debt to income ratio. I wasn't making a lot. I was making enough to save, pay my bills, and move on, right? And so what I was doing is I bought my first home, and then I was part-time in school, working a full-time job. My equity was paid for my education, because what I did when I graduated, I refinanced my home, paid my student loans, and to this date, I don't have any student loan. right? And I have my degree, I have my home. So I kept my home for about 9 years. But that didn't really stop me. And let me tell you how I bought my first investment home. I was walking down the street, downtown, and I saw the cutest, historic home downtown. And I saw there was a sign on it, for sale sign, and it had been there for a while. So I got out of my car. I walked around the home. I called the agent, and I was like, I want to buy this home. I had looked it up online. It was listed for $20,000.
Wow.
Yes. So I bought it. We flipped it. I remember working weekends, scrubbing floors, scrubbing the windows, painting, redoing kitchen cabinets. At that time, I lived in Indiana, so the house didn't have heat. I mean, it was a nice experience. I look back and I'm like, whoa, I can't believe we were able to do that, right? So I bought it it was listed for $20,000. I bought it for $15,000, and then I flipped it and sold it for $85,000 about 4 months later.
Nice.
That is really good. So I've stuck with this my adult life, that I believe that everybody should work in retail at least for a year.
Yeah.
And everybody should work in a restaurant as a server. I
worked in a restaurant.
So now I'm looking at this, Lyndon. I think we're going to add this. I think everybody should have to scrub floors and redo windows and do their countertops, because it teaches you more about home ownership and appreciation.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, going back to my kiddos. I mean, my youngest, he's as big as I am, and he would jump on the couch or something and bust off a leg, or Dad, I broke this, or Dad, I busted the counter. I'm like, oh my goodness, you're not quit doing that, quit being destructive. And he didn't do it on purpose, but now knowing how to repair it and fix it, and he actually works with his grandpa and doing some remodeling and roofing and all of that, which he has a much better appreciation, Gracie, for things now. Now he's not as rough and rambunctious. He's still young. He's our youngest, but he is a little bit more cautious or conscientious about things. Ownership.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
How old is your kid?
My youngest is 17.
Okay. Yeah,
and our oldest is 25.
Okay.
So that it's good stuff, but being able to teach people how to own home ownership. So you flipped it. You netted $60,000 on the flip in 4 months. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you? Or did it take you all 4 months to work?
It really did.
Hours?
Yeah, because keep in mind, I was in school and then I was working a full-time job. I would spend every minute I could in that home fixing it, right? Ordering this, ordering that, scrubbing floors. The house, I still remember, it had original wood flooring from hundreds of years ago. And so we were able to keep the original floors. I mean, the house wasn't in good shape. It just needed a little bit of clean here and there. So in about 4 months, we were able to sell it, put it back on the market, and then it all started from there.
What gave you the confidence to get into something like that you'd never done before? Did you have a mentor? Was there somebody helping you, or was this just you jump? Wow, that's impressive.
No, here's the thing. So I was born in Mexico, and my dad he's a U.S. citizen, and so, but he loves Mexico. He lives there right now. So I remember he was like, I'm gonna take you, so all my siblings were here in the States, and I was growing with my parents, right, as a single kid, even though I have 4 siblings. So for my birthday, I asked my dad to bring me to the States, just as a family trip, right, to get to see my siblings, because I had not seen them for like 10 years or so. And back then, so, there wasn't Skype, social media. I could barely talk to them on the phone. I was in a private school in Mexico. Like, I barely had any time to socialize with anybody. So I asked him to bring me to the States to celebrate my birthday with my siblings. And when I got here, I had not seen him for 10 years or so. They were just staring at me, right? And so it hit me. I was like, who are they, right? Like, and so I think that they were thinking the same thing. My one sister was like just staring at me the whole time. And so then my older sibling, my oldest brother, he's like, do you want to stay? You don't have to go back. You can continue your education here with us. And I said, I'm staying. That's a story for another show, but long story short, I stayed, and I knew I wanted to make a difference in my life. I knew I wanted to make a difference and show my parents that I could be a successful citizenship here in the States, because my dad was like, no, you're going to get your career in Mexico. You're going to be, this big person in Mexico. You're in the best school, like, you've got this, the U.S. is not for you. And I was like, I'm going to prove him wrong, right? And so I stayed, and it was one of the best decisions I could ever do in my life. So no mentor, no nothing.
Wow. That's a great story.
That's fantastic. So one to have the courage to step out of your comfort zone, number one. I love that. And number two, to be able to say, even at that age, Gracie, and we're not going to ask you what age that was. But
I was 18.
At 18, which, Lyndon, wouldn't that be just absolutely amazing to have people say, or just come to the realization of, you know what, I just want to be a better me. I want to make the difference, to be better inside of me and a better human being. So I love that. We talk about getting goals and things, temporal things, and they don't satisfy. They really don't. You can get a new boat, you can get new golf clubs, you can get a new house, you can get this. The sparkle wears off on that. But Gracie, to hear what you say on, you know what, I just want to be a better person. I wanted to prove not only to myself, but to other people that I can do it and I can make a difference. And you made a difference in you first. And now it's showing what you're doing in your career, that you're actually making a difference in the lives of other people. And that's really why we do the show.
Brian, think about this. You and I on many shows and when we're not on shows, we talk about the personal development, the self-awareness, the personal responsibility. And to be honest, I wouldn't say that the American culture for the youth really focuses on that the way that it should. And what I love about Gracie's story is the fact that she was self-aware of where she was, where she wanted to be, and took the personal responsibility. And I can't even imagine what it would be like, even though, as she said, that's your blood relative, brothers, sisters, but you don't know them. You're leaving a country. It's hard for some kids to go to a different school across town. Here she is moving from Mexico into a completely new country, new environment, not knowing what to expect. And now here she is. That's when I started the difference. And I know that everybody, you included, Brian, Those are the stories we look for, and what was the difference? Why were you able to get from there to here? And Gracie, I can't thank you enough for sharing that story today.
That's fantastic. Love it.
I haven't really shared it with a few people, but I mean, the people that are the closest to me, they're the ones that know the story. But now it got me thinking, like, what if the story inspires somebody, So no, thank you for allowing me to share it with you guys.
Very inspirational story. It really is.
It started at 18. So you moved, you enrolled into college, or were you graduated from high school?
Here's one thing, and you guys are going to think this is crazy, but just remember this, like my first language is Spanish. So I came to the States. It was my first time. I came with my dad and everything. And on the way here, he was like, remember, he was driving and he was like, this is not, you have to go back. We have to go back. We're just going to be here for your birthday for 5 days and you're coming back with me. But he was like, this is not a country for you. But I think it was more of a codependent kind of thing where he wanted me to, go back and continue being the only kid at home. And because, they couldn't control the 4 other siblings,
Can any parent control their kids at all? No.
But I didn't know a word of English. Like I wasn't speaking the language. I knew yes and no. I had to learn it. I was doing flashcards. I was learning a new word every day. I enrolled in high school, and I remember in my math class, the teacher was moving the numbers, and I was like, wait a minute, like I know how to solve this. Like I already know what you're gonna do, right? So I ended up being like the ESL, English as your second language assistant, to one of the main teachers in high school, and I tested out of like the main classes. And I basically finished high school in about 8 months or so.
The story just keeps on getting better.
No,
it really does.
I need to stop. I'm not making this up. I promise.
Basically, you couldn't make this up.
You need to be sharing this story more and more and more, though. It really is.
It's inspiring. It's encouraging, and I want to tell you, even and not to regret my last week's show, but oh my goodness, having this in the beginning of 2021, Gracie, to show people against all odds, you can move to another country, you can get into learn a new language, you can get into high school, test out of it in 8 months. You don't even have to go through it the whole school year. Change your position into becoming the assistant to the teacher that teaches Spanish as a second language or English as a second language. And then upon graduating, then you decided, wow, I don't want to stop at high school. I want to go to college. So apparently you enrolled in college. Were you living, and you mentioned Indiana, were you living there?
Yeah, so I finished high school here in Venus, south of Dallas, close to Alvarado, Cleburne. I finished high school there, and then I got into the restaurant business. So I agree with you when you say, people have to live and learn from retail or from working in a restaurant. So I was working at a restaurant. I actually moved up pretty quick in that industry. Then I moved to Indiana. I got married, had my kids, moved to Indiana. And after 9 years of living in Indiana, graduated, did all of that. Then I moved back to Texas 4 years ago.
Okay. So were you married when you bought your first house, or did you buy your first house prior to getting married?
I bought it prior to getting married.
Okay, and then you got married. So, and again, the story just keeps on getting better. So, do you realize the added responsibilities that you just kept on layering here?
Yeah.
I mean, just from I'm going to move, and then I'm going to learn a new language, and I'm going to move with siblings that I haven't seen in 10 years, so I have no clue what they're going to be like at all. And then I'm going to buy a home. I'm going to get into college, whichever one came first. And then I'm going to walk down the street and go, wow, I want to purchase that home and fix that up. It's really cool. And just the piece that I didn't say is the student loan that you got to have the wherewithal, the acumen.
Absolutely.
To utilize your equity as leverage to say, you know what, this student loan is not going to go away if I don't pay it.
Mm-hmm.
But you can leverage equity to increase cash flow by getting you out of debt. And that's one of the first principles we teach in our seminar is to increase your cash flow. So you could use, let's say you had $100,000 of equity sitting in your house and you have $30,000 worth of debt. Then you could sell that house, take $30,000 of your equity, pay off the debt, and then with the money is so cheap right now, you can go get into a home, be out of debt, and then into a brand new home.
Yeah,
you could do a lateral move.
It goes back to the beginning. The worst thing that you can do to your savings is not keeping up with the maintenance of your home, of your current home.
Yep.
You have to be able to keep up and do the maintenance. Otherwise, you're hurting your savings.
Yep. So, Lyndon, what questions do you have? I have like a plethora of questions. And we're going to bring her on like every week.
It'd probably be a good idea. No, I just, Brian, I've had this discussion with you and being in credit and being in mortgage and being around the industry for as long as I have. And you watch the home buyer seminars that they have for first-time home buyers, and they give a lot of great information. But the thing, and Brian, we've discussed this. I think that we are all taught how to buy and how to sell, but nobody's teaching us how to own. Mm-hmm. And how to maximize the equity in our home. And I love what Gracie is saying for several reasons. One is she's in the business. She realizes the importance, her integrity and duty to the people that she works with, being willing to say, you're not ready, knowing that Gracie doesn't make a commission on that if they're not ready, right? So she's putting the client first over her own needs. But the fact that she's educating them and coming to them from this experience. And like I said, Gracie, I don't know how many times you share that story with these people that you're working with, but I know that it matters. It matters to so many people because a lot of times I think in this industry, we kind of look at the people advising us, kind of like Brian was describing a parent and a kid before. Oh, you're just telling me this for whatever reason. Our kids don't realize that a lot of things they're going through, we've already experienced. This is not unique to them. And Gracie has that experience to go, this is not unique to you. I've done this. And so I already have the proven blueprint. So let's work together. And I think when we can take a moment, Gracie, something you said earlier is you want a client for life, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they realize that you have taken as deep an interest as you had to not only show them how to buy a home and how to sell a home, but you show them how to own a home. And the way that they own it increases the value of that home. Why would anybody want to go anywhere else?
Totally agree. And then Gracie, as far as the education here, not only just owning your home, but purchasing investment properties. What's the responsibility on that? What, if you, and this is what I teach, if I can teach you how to own a home and create that stewardship of owning, then owning an investment property is the same. They are the same principles. They are. Yeah. I mean, an HVAC down the street is the same as the HVAC in your house.
Right.
That's a great point, Brian. I mean, how successful can you be in property investment if you don't know how to maintain and increase the value in the one you're living in?
you're really going uphill. And one of the things, Gracie, you could have gotten into any aspect of real estate. You could have gone into the fix and flips. You could have gone into the buy and hold on the investment side. You could have done mortgages. You could have done title. You could have done real estate, just as far as a real estate agent. But you chose mortgage, and which I love that aspect because it's the financial stewardship. I actually started off in the mortgage business, the mortgage industry, years ago. I think it's close to 26 years now, and loved it. I've stayed into this deal, and I say I loved it. I've loved it and I've hated it all at the same time, and I've been jaded and you go through cycles in your career, but I can tell you that the love and the passion I have is really to teach, and it's to teach consumers. Not only teach consumers, but also teach professionals in the industry like yourself, Gracie, that you are an example of someone who's doing it right and doing business correctly. And so when we can show people how to do business correctly, now it's not just a transaction, because you don't have to tell people they're not ready. You right. don't. But you choose to, because that upholds the professional standard of your industry to a higher level of character and integrity, which I absolutely commend you and love that. I do. That's fantastic, because it's not transactional with you. Now it is a educator. It is a relationship. It is something that you look at from a mentor type. Since you didn't have one, you have become one. And that's really neat to me.
Right. No, absolutely. I do have to pay attention to the numbers, because obviously I am the branch manager and a lot of families depend on me. You know, we have our processors, everybody that's part of Team Amazing Grace. That's the name of our group here. I have to pay attention to the numbers, and I kind of hate it sometimes, because I'm like, I don't really want to concentrate my energy on counting how many families we have helped, right? We have to obviously, I have to keep the branch into a positive balance sheet every month, but this industry is not for everybody. One day I was walking down, the hallway, and I asked everybody, I was like, have you ever cried? And Luis Hernandez, he's our branch operations manager, and he's like, oh yeah, I have. And I was like, okay, that makes me feel good. Then you're in the right business, right? We have always cried, we have, celebrated. Being on this industry is not for everybody. People think that it might be easy, but it's really not. You really put your heart into it. At the end of the day, on the other side, there is a family that's depending on you, and it's giving you their full trust, income, assets, financials, everything, so that you can help them get into a home. I mean, that is a huge responsibility, and I do not take it for granted.
That's refreshing.
Brian, can you see the comment from Matt Kern?
I can.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that Gracie heard this, because I think not only I'm putting it up for the viewers and the audience to see, but for the podcast, we probably need to read it, because they can't see it. But Matt's a friend of mine and Brian's. But read that if you would, Brian, because I want Gracie to hear it.
And Gracie, do you know Matt Kern?
I do not. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him. Okay,
so we need to introduce you. Matt Kern's been a great friend of mine for many years. It says, Gracie's testimony will help reduce the fear in someone's decisions to buy, invest, and build a home. Even first-time home buyers will see that her choices moved her to another level of confidence. Share your light, girl.
Oh, that's sweet.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
On that, Matt.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
So one of our goals, Gracie, with redefining real estate, and even in the group that I have, is to put together partners and that collaborate that resonate with each other, that build the community, that build neighborhoods, that build families, and understand the stewardship of the industry to educate the stewardship of homeownership. So it all comes down to stewardship, responsibility, research. How do I use what I have to better me in the future? So it's not maxing out my quote unquote payment, so I'll be house poor. It is actually being responsible in my purchasing, is responsible in my selling, that really causes us to grow. And one of the things that I love about our group and what we have put together and what we're continuing to build on are relationships like you and I have, and having professionals at that level that are forward thinkers, and they're making a difference in everyday lives, but not only in everyday lives, but in communities, in neighborhoods. So we basically see this world become a better place. I love the team name, by the way. So tell us again your team name. Tell us, how can we get a hold of you, and just give us your contact information so people can reach out.
Yeah, so Gracie Perez, branch manager for Team Amazing Grace. The name came not because of my name. It became because when we started this thing, when we started the branch, the group, we all were into a position in our lives where we shared the same faith, and we were not afraid of sharing with others at the office. You would find us praying in the middle of the hallway. You would find us praying every time we would get a clear to close on a family. We're just not afraid to show our faith. And that's how the name came about, Team Amazing Grace.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so you can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Gracie Perez, Facebook, Instagram, Ms. Mortgage, DFW. My phone number is 972-878-8823. If you go to gracieperez.com, you also find me on my website.
Fantastic. Good deal. Lyndon, do you have any closing remarks or comments?
You know what? I think I've said everything I possibly can say. I'd just be repeating it. I'm so impressed with you, Gracie, and what you do, and your faith, and the fact that you're not scared to share that as well. There's no doubt that plays a big part in your business model. And I appreciate, because I've been there. I've been where you are, and you're right. You do cry. You cry. You know what it's like to see these disappointed families sometimes, and for whatever reason that it didn't work out for them the way that they were hoping and praying that it would. There's a lot of heart and soul that goes into the job that you do, and I just I'm very, very impressed at what you've done through your whole lifetime and your career.
Thank you. Yeah. No, it was. Thank you so much for having me. I would love to join you guys again. Just let me know. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, so, we're gonna have you on probably every other week, Gracie. I love the story.
Just remember, send me an invite. I gotta have it in my calendar.
There you go.
So, closing remarks. One, Gracie, first and foremost, thank you again. Thank you for being transparent and sharing your story. Not everybody shares their story because they don't know how it's going to come across. But you did a fantastic job. Love the story. Very encouraged. I have my notepad over here on my side, and looking at the notes, I can just tell you, hands down, this was just a fantastic day with you on the show. And not only is it a fantastic time, but I really believe it's critical. And even if it just ministers to one person, Gracie, it's worth it. And we do cry, and we do get frustrated, and we do get happy and elated, and that is the coolest thing about our business, because it's real. And you know, you have real estate, but the word is real. It just is. It's real, and it should be real.
Yeah.
It should be that way, and you've made it that way, and you've made it attainable and achievable, and it's an honor to have that story and that heritage that you have. And I pray you share this to more people. I really do. And we're going to do our part.
I know a great place you could go to share that story on a regular basis.
I do too, Lyndon. I do. There's a TV station out there. I'm just teasing. So one of the things, guys, when you're watching this program, will you do us a favor? Share this, because people need to hear Gracie's story. They just need to hear it. They need to hear about the perseverance, the consistency, the determination, the drive, and the professionalism that she brings to the equation and to this industry. That's what we're about, redefining real estate. And I want to thank you again, Lyndon. We have a lot of laughs and fun, and you and I banter back and forth, and we express our frustrations. I'm sure we've cried several times, and probably it's not going to be the last. And again, thank you so much, Gracie, for your time today that you've spent with us. And I'm going to walk away encouraged and inspired by this as well. And plus, I really will give all my children your name and number and say, this is a must. You need to call Gracie.
Yes, they can come and see me. Yes.
So I'm going to sit down. I'm going to sit my boys down with you and just let you talk to them, because they need to hear it, not out of my mouth, because they're not listening. They're kind of tone deaf on that, but out of somebody else.
You're just trying to set yourself up so you can say, "See, I told you so."
Well, you know what? I don't know why we wouldn't. But anyway, so Gracie, you'll definitely be back. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to Redefining Real Estate. We are here every Tuesday from 11 to 12 Central Standard Time. Super excited for you to join us. If you have any questions or comments or would like to reach out, please let us know. My name is Brian Dobbs, and love having you with us, and look forward to many more great episodes and a fantastic year in 2021. Have a blessed week, and we will see you next Tuesday.